Hey everyone, my name's Stephanie. Welcome to my channel, Stephanie Squared, where Fleming and Brown collide. I am an exhibiting artist underneath the name Stephanie Brown, and I live my everyday life as Stephanie Fleming. I have been trying to conceive now, aka TTC, for a couple years, year and some change. And I've actually been documenting my journey behind the scenes for quite some time. And it's been on my heart to share it. It's been on my heart to really document it in a fairly detailed manner. And it's taken me quite some time to be able to go public with it. But I'm really grateful for Spirit continuing to provide me plenty of affirmation opportunities and reminders that it needs to be shared. And that people are out there waiting for it. They might not be telling me that they're waiting for it, but they're looking forward to it. And they're looking forward to it not in the sense of like, oh yeah, what's going on with you? But in the sense of they're curious if it might help them too. Or they're in a similar situation and they're not ready to talk about it yet. So here I am, looking to share that now. This is probably going to be broken up into several parts because it's a little lengthy of a story. But the idea here is that I'm going to kind of go through the high level timeline of everything. And the goal is that if something really speaks to you or as more time becomes available, I'm actually going to backtrack and go into a little bit more detail of certain moments that really warrant its own video. But I wanted to at least start off with a general timeline to bring everyone up to present day as of today, which is, I guess for context, is August 21st, 2023. All right, let's get into it. Why am I ready to share now? Well, several reasons. My spirit's been on me about it for quite some time. I have sought out a lot of support, and I've realized that a lot of that support is behind private forums. So really grateful for platforms like Modern Fertility and Flow and you name it, all the apps that are out there for not just tracking your period, but also tracking your pregnancy journey. And it's been apparent that it's not, the more people I talk to about it, the more I feel that I'm really supporting and helping others. And I feel like for me, documenting it is really going to be a way to help the masses. And whoever shares it with someone else, you know, I'm on YouTube too, looking to hear from other people. And I'm seeing some similarities, but not enough all the time. So here we are. Okay, the timeline. The timeline has a lot of sad points. And I think that it's no coincidence that now I'm recording and I'm kind of past the depth of a lot of that sadness, and more so I'm really have been just grieving. I'm grieving all of the possibilities. I've been grieving all of the variables. I've been grieving my plans and desires, and that's all been necessary for me to reach a place of just being present. I've never been very good at being present. I am a planner. I do deal with anxiety, which makes me want to be in control. So when there are situations that I cannot control or that I can't plan for, it's very frustrating. So all of those things have played a factor in my life. And I think where I'm arrived at now is whatever happens, happens. And when it's supposed to happen, it will happen. And I'm continuing to learn along this journey, but it's teaching me a lot of patience. And it's also really teaching me to be present because I have no idea what's next. And there's some beauty in that. And I'm trying to find peace and resolution in the unknowing, opposed to my prior mindset of always feeling like I needed to know and to make these very calculated steps. I'm arriving to the point that God is going to provide me everything I need as I need it, when I need it. And I just need to leave the rest alone. So the timeline goes back to 2021. A lot of things happened in 2021. July, 4th of July weekend of 2021, husband Philip and I, we actually closed on our very first home. I was working in office at the time. I'd recently gone back to the office for maybe a few weeks. Same with my partner. So we both went back to work post that beautiful time at home pandemic time period. And we just closed on our very first home. So we closed 4th of July weekend. We were moving in, and literally our first week back, he gets a phone call. He's got to fly out to New York. And unfortunately, his father passes away like the next day or two. Thankfully, he could be there with him, and he made it to New York on time, and we like to think that he was holding out for him. But that's the start of our timeline, because we weren't thinking about trying to have kids. I won't say anytime soon, but it just wasn't something that we were like, yeah, we're gonna really start trying. Not really. Then fast forward later that year, I learned that my dad has prostate cancer. And I don't quite know the depths of it and how serious it is, but I am spending a lot of time in Florida. And come October, actually, got to roll back, September of 2021, I get fired. My best friend, September of 2021, Monet, I'll link her birth story in the video, in the description below. But I was a part of the birth story. I was a part of her birthing plan, myself and our other best friend, Chevelle. And when I got the call that it was baby time, I had to go. Again, I'll keep this high level as to not get into the weeds of it. But anyway, I was fired for a time violation policy. And that time violation was me not submitting my time like 24 hours prior to me actually leaving and taking off. I did have PTO hours to utilize for this time that I needed to go to New York to see my goddaughter be born. But anyway, everything happens for a reason. So I came back to Atlanta to no job and they called me into the office and they let me go. So from that point, I was pretty devastated at first. And I jumped straight into freelance, just trying to figure out where is money going to come from. We still brand new homeowners. What are we doing? So that put me back on the job market. What does that have to do with my fertility journey? Well, a lot, because my health insurance that I was getting from that job expired the end of September. So from October, and onward, I didn't have health insurance, which means I didn't have my birth control anymore. And originally I was on birth control, not solely to avoid getting pregnant, but I was on birth control because I've never had regular periods before. I did know that I have PCOS. And I did know that when it came time for me to want to have children, that might be an issue, but there were things that I could do to mitigate that. So it's like, okay, cool, no problem. My understanding was, okay, I can get on birth control, have the regular periods and all of that, and I'll be fine. So getting off of birth control, I went back to not having regular periods. And that was fine because it's not on our brains or on our hearts to necessarily like try to have a kid right now. Especially with me not being employed. So, we just continued to use protection. Cool. Thankfully, I do get picked up for a freelance job about a month after being laid off. And that freelance job turned into my current full-time job that I'm really happy at and I love. And it's fully remote. And for me, on my planner mindset, for what I was looking for my own fertility journey was, by time I was having a kid, I wanted to be fully remote. Being home during the pandemic and being able to see my family and be with my nieces and nephews so much, I was just like, I don't want to not be able to do this. So I had a very definitive mindset that I definitely wanted to be fully remote for that reason. And then for the long-term reason of my dream of living 6 months out of the year in another country. So for me, that was a great next step of that. My next role definitely had to be remote. Okay, moving along the timeline, more sad things, unfortunately. So we're still in 2021. Now, December of 2021, my dad is unfortunately rapidly declining. Our last kind of coherent memory with him is actually Christmas Day in Orlando. And the very next day, he gets put into the hospital, and we have to call 911, and he never comes back out of the hospital. He's in the hospital for months. And thankfully, because I was fully remote, I was able to be there with him and my mom almost every step of the way. I stayed in Florida all the way through February of 2022, and then I went back home to Atlanta. And about a week or so after I returned home is when he actually passed in the hospital. So losing my dad at that point really put Philip and I in a situation where we're just like, dang, now our kids don't have grandpas. And the grandmas aren't getting any younger. And I'd already been off of birth control for so long. So I'm just like, I don't know when or what, but like, why am I getting in the way, and maintaining, using protection, that kind of thing. Just like, for what? Like, it's not like, in my head, I did think that I'd get pregnant like immediately, but also knowing that anything could happen. So we kind of made a conscious decision at that point that we were just going to be done with waiting and kind of getting in the way of the possibility of getting pregnant. So fast forward a little bit, we have a funeral. I bury my dad, and as soon as I get back from Atlanta, I have a really important reading. It's my very first reading. That's important. And then actually the reading is with the same person that I'm now going on a spiritual retreat with, which is really important too. And then after that reading, I go on a week-long residency to Hambidge, which is in the North Georgia Blue Ridge Mountains, in the valley of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And that is really significant because right after coming back from Hambidge, literally the month after I come back, I'm pregnant. And looking back retrospectively, a lot of key things happened for me while I was in Hambidge. Actually, if you look at my YouTube channel videos, you'll see if I'm in a fuzzy tan, I'm kind of in like a wooden area, like that's me in Hambidge. My skin looked great, my hair looked great, I was feeling great, I was eating vegetarian and vegan meals like every single day. I packed my own food too, but it was all like super healthy. And I was in peace and quiet. I had zero work, no day job, no side jobs, nothing. I just had a moment to myself, a whole week to myself. And having that time right after burying my dad was everything for me I can't say that I fully processed things, because further down my timeline, you'll see that was not the case. But it was healthy for me to be able to do that. Otherwise, I would have just jumped back into work. Knowing who I am and how I operate, I would have come back from burying my dad and dove straight back into work. So having that time was great. I wrote so much. I read so much. It was incredible. So emotionally, mentally, like all of the channels and parts of me were 100% happy. And that definitely, I think, played a big impact. So after a week being away from my husband, come right back home. No surprise, month later, I was surprised that I have a positive. Unfortunately, that pregnancy lasted about 6 weeks. And I can go deeper into that in another video. But again, just high level timeline. So I ended up having a miscarriage. That was hard. And in a very odd way, I felt prepared because of the artwork that I've done before around miscarriage and around infant fatalities. So it wasn't as challenging as it wasn't like, oh my goodness, this happened to me. It was more like, wow, now I have my own story. And my gut reaction was to also document. So I have images. I also felt like I needed to share that with the doctor. And I have saved, some of the elements from that time period, like the positive pregnancy test and things like that. So they tell you after miscarriage, the first one is very common. It's super common. We just don't talk about it enough. It's like 1 in 5 women will experience a miscarriage in their life. So super common, but I had more things working against me. So this is May that I end up having the miscarriage. And around that time, I also start my first paid role with the museum that I work with here in Atlanta. And I love that role. It is a lot of work. But I was really grateful and excited to be in that role and again, pour myself into work. Okay, going down the timeline, more time went by, doctors say like, all right, give your body some time to like reset. And then the next time, like you will get pregnant, it'll be fine. Well, we make it all the way to December and nothing. So I meet with my primary care doctor and she's letting me know, she's like, hey, don't delay any longer. Like, go ahead and see that fertility specialist. Normally, you would wait a full year of trying before seeing a fertility specialist. But because I have PCOS, I've got more things against me. I don't ovulate regularly. And if you don't have a period, then you're not ovulating. So my primary doctor, she's not too much older than me, but she had to go through IVF. So it's not necessarily always an age thing. Everybody has a different journey. So she was encouraging me, just like, do whatever you got to do now. Do what you can while you have options, opposed to being in a reactive situation, dealing with very few options. Be proactive in this essence.